Alright, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So we're going to get around to some more Shonen Jump stuff today. So we got Spy Family, and possibly Akane Banashi as well to get around to today. After this, I'll probably take a small break from Akane just to let some chapters and things pile up, and then read throughs. I'll figure out when I'm going to get back to those at a different time. In the meantime, still a lot of good stuff coming your way. So if you haven't already, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. But without further ado, let us dive into it. Spy Family Mission 118 by Tetsuya Endo. Translation by Casey Lowe and lettering by Rina Mappa. We have that's the enemy base, and you see like a bunch of tents and like soldiers moving around with like vehicles parked nearby. And you have, by my count, there's about 20 to 25 of them. They're well armed and some even have machine guns, although they're older models. It's entirely possible that there are more bases elsewhere, so our top priority should be destroying their comms. We'll interrogate their leader before we kill him. And yours like, Roger that, sir. And then, I want to say Nightshade, I don't remember if that's his name or not, but he's still looking like all despondent after yours like chewing out last time. Oh, Hemlock. He's like, Hemlock, please try to snap out of it. He's like, Mary, make out. And McMahon's like, what are those wounds? And she's like, oh, Hemlock and I had a bit of a squabble. And you see this guard is just like watching the perimeter as you see a crack as McMahon just snaps his neck. I do love the little touch of his bird coming down to help assist him, like grabbing the gun before it falls down, like carrying it away. And you see Yor just has to like trying to drag Hemlock around because he's still in a daze. And have you heard anything back from A-Team? It's like, not since they reached the hunting grounds. Yeah, we should tighten our security just in case. It's like, hey, Jimmy, do you copy? And you see McMahon just like looming behind him. And you see Yor using her little sword to like break up the radio and comm stuff. And she goes, phew. It's like, this guy seems to be the leader. You two take care of the rest. Did Yor get hurt again? Or is that just the damage from Hemlock's thing? And you see a Fwish as Yor just goes and like stabs these two guys in the head and takes them out. It's like, what? It's like, duh. And you have someone gets one of his Nora's knives thrown into his head. And she's like, ow, ow, ow. And she's like waving her arm around. It's like, boss, like, Josh? Who the hell is that? Get your guns. And you see Hemlock still walking around dazed. He's like, hey, you with the goose egg, this you're doing? He's like, oh no, Hemlock, look out. And you see him still just dazed, still like effortlessly slashing the guy apart. And you have a whip, 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 whip. It's like, he's so strong, even in this condition. And you have an eep. He's like, I'm Hemlock, you're too far away. Remember how I broke off the end of your sword? He's like, this son of a... It's like, oh, come on. And you see you're just grabbing him as he just like continuing to swing his sword around. It's like, here, from this range. He's like, gah. It's like, are you getting it now? I can trust you to handle this, right? And you have to surround him and circle and attack. And you see that he's apparently affronted by this. Is finally like, gets out of the daze, like back to angry. He's like, can you only fight as a swarm, you gutless gnats? And you have a god as a slash as he cuts them all apart. It's like, if being good buddies means so much to you, then I'll chop you all into a single pile of meat. And you see that they completely just annihilated the base camp for these guys. And you see a McMahon with like, looks like that's settled. It's like, there appears to be no survivors. So we'll bury their firearms and poaching supplies nearby and have a disposal team recover them later. And McMahon's like, okay, shall we drive back? And Hemlock's like, I'll be walking home. It will be inappropriate for me to accompany you any longer. I'll return by myself. And he says a verm as they are taken off. Yours, like, are you sure it's okay to leave him here? It's like, if it's what he wants. And he's like, it wasn't enough. My devotion to solitude was still inadequate. I must redouble my efforts lest I end up like her. And he's just imagining her like, Eve, save me, hubby. I promise I'll give you a welcome home kiss. It's like, she never said that. And you have an erg as his head, like the little wound on his head starts throbbing. It's like, unless I'm mistaken, could I become stronger by marrying too? He's like, no, do not waver. My own grandfather, a battle-hardened veteran, said those who stand above always stand alone. Wait, but he couldn't have fathered my mom if he hadn't gotten married himself. No, do not waver. I am a stoic set of pruning shears. And you see on the drive back, you are being like, and he was saying all sorts of things like that. It's like, it made me wonder if as an assassin it was a mistake for me to marry. but I could never love or be loved by solitude the way he does. And McMahon's like, there's no simple answer to that question. Some derive strength from having people protect, while others from having nothing to lose. It all depends on the circumstances of the individual. Like, so the correct answer is the one that makes you stronger. And he's like, who says you need to choose it all? So long as your devotion to your work remains your top priority, that should be enough. And she's like, so why did you marry your wife, Mr. McMahon? He's like, oh, forgive me. I shouldn't pry into your personal life. Forget I asked. He's like, it's fine. My situation was a little different and I got married before I joined Garden. If you were to ask why we're still together even now, I don't know that I have a good answer to that question myself. I fight for my country and I take pride in that. But I can't deny that our work would be perceived as dirty by outsiders. Were my wife to discover this identity, I do not think she would stay with me. That said, against all reason I've come to hope that she would. And maybe that is the entire reason we're still together. And you see yours kind of like uh looking thoughtful about this. He's like, could that be what I'm hoping for as well? Even though he's merely my partner in a sham marriage? And he's like, now sorry, that's your going. Now my marriage may differ a bit from the love and happiness in Hemlock's characterization. He's like, there's still no sign of civilization. My solitude is heightening. He's like, until I die, I will wear a mask, deceive her, and live with her. And maybe that's selfish of me. But I don't harbor any misgivings about that. If you're having second thoughts about your marriage, you need to end it. If you aren't committed to it, everyone will end up getting hurt. And you see his Lord like going back, he's like holding her throbbing arm. And you have the name tag Garden. And you have, hi Anya, I'm home. It's like, Mama, you're back. It's like, Worf. It's like, where's Lloyd? It's like, he's reading in his room. It's like, actually, he's making a mission report. It's like, is that so? It's like, Mama just fought it in a battle? And as he has yours going to her room, she's like, I don't dare tell him about my real job. But I just can't. It's like, hello, Lloyd? Bear this any longer. Alright, so I guess quick thoughts on the chapter. On the one hand, I'm kind of annoyed that the filler's stupid. Like, again, the very, like, painfully unfunny jokes with Hemlock being like, oh, still stuck in a daze, but, like, getting chewed out by Yor and having, like, his whole entire sense of, like, identity and self-worth being, like, flipped on its head. Like, I wish that gag didn't take up so much of the chapter. Like, it's just very painfully unfunny, kind of like juvenile humor, in a sense. So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it's just kind of like, all right, sure, it's a thing. But again, like, it takes up so much screen time away from something that was potentially, if it was developed more, could have been way more interesting in that regard. So I guess we'll get to that once we get to the actual pages with that. Apart from that, this mission feels a lot like shorter and more lackluster than I was expecting from like the beginning based on what it was sounding like. I thought this was gonna last a little bit longer and give like Yor a little bit more focus. For some reason, it feels like Endo's kind of like speed running through this to kind of get to like the cliffhanger climax stuff we've got at the end. We'll talk about that once we get to that proper as well. Apart from that, I did like Yor kind of like questing McMahon, like, I'm kind of like wondering what my marriage now, like, and whether it is making me, like, inefficient at my job, whether it's like worth kind of keeping up the facade, all those things, and asking about McMahon, being like, hey, like, what's your marriage like? Do you have any regrets about, like, the job you have, like, hiding stuff from your wife, things like that? The reason I feel like it lacks kind of the impact necessary to make it feel more meaningful, to make it feel like they're actually having an actual heart to heart, is we haven't really seen like a close friendship or camaraderie between McMahon and Yor, even though they were in that on the cruise ship arc together. There's still a large degree of kind of separation between them. It was very much like, uh, boss subordinate kind of relationship. And so the fact that there doesn't seem to be like a breakdown of that, or even like an acknowledgement from both of them, like, hey, normally we don't talk about stuff like this. We kind of like keep it out of like the work and business thing. Like, we have like the work life separation. We don't usually talk about stuff like this. Like, even a tiny acknowledgement that they're like, hey, we don't usually talk about this, but I can sense that something's kind of like, got you off acting weirdly. Do you want to talk about it? You know, kind of that thing. I feel like having devoted more time to that would have made this feel a lot more impactful. And I think on the other hand, with that as well, is like we also haven't spent enough time with either McMahon or his wife for us to be particularly invested in either him or his relationship with her. So his thing of being like, oh, you know, I fight for my country, take pride in that. If my wife was like gonna find out what she did, like you know, she might probably leave me because she wouldn't be able to stomach it. It's like, oh, and I have to hope that you know she would kind of understand where I was coming from, what I was doing, why I was doing it, and like you know, maybe it was like the fact we're both hiding our secrets, blah blah blah. Is like why we're still together. Again, like we haven't got as readers. I don't feel like we are invested enough in him as a character for that to feel meaningful. Where he does the confession like that, and same with Yor. Like again, like as much as I want to see the romance between Yor and Lloyd develop, like I've said in like the last couple of arcs and chapters, I don't feel like Endo's given it enough juice or enough gas or given it the development that it needs for a lot of Yor's kind of like second thoughts and like feelings at this point to kind of feel meaningful as well in that regard. Which is kind of like having that like inner battle with herself, where it's like, oh, you know, like what am I hoping for? What am I hoping to get out of this marriage? Like, what is the end point of all of this going to be? So I don't know. Like I'm glad that it finally is starting to like bring up the questions. At least having your kind of think about that and address that. But I don't feel like we've gotten enough introspection development up to this point, especially on your side, for it to feel more meaningful. That she is starting to ask herself these questions this far into the series. Uh, I don't know. I'm very curious about what is going to happen when she goes into the room. I wonder if she's going to be like kind of playing like the thing of like, oh, you know, heard from a friend about a friend, or like, you know, about this. If she's gonna like try to put feelers out to kind of feel like, hey, you know, if you find out this person that you married was not like this at all, you know, what would your reaction be like? Things like that. I don't know, like part of me feels like it's not gonna get that serious. Like there'll be something either Anya will like read their minds and like interrupt, kind of like make sure things don't get too serious, or something else will happen, like Yor will like chicken out and be like, oh, you know, it's nothing, and she'll just kind of try to play it off as something else. She'll be like, I have to think about this, things like that. But we'll see what happens in the next chapter. It is an interesting cliffhanger, I will say, all things considered. But really, I think my feelings on it are really going to depend on how the next chapter plays out, and depending on what Yor tells Lloyd. So with all that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, you know, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I think at some point in the future, I also want to talk about something tangentially related, which is how does Yor feel about, like, you know, taking people's lives and like killing and all that? Because it doesn't seem like it's something that, you know, really kind of bothers her. It doesn't feel like she has like a moral quandary about doing it. But again, I feel like that would be a really compelling arc for her to go through, is if she has to like take out someone that she does feel like morally conflicted about taking them out. They're not just kind of like nameless, very stereotypical looking like evil goons or lackeys. We'll talk about that another time. So like I said, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, you know, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Until next time, this is Ash. I'll talk to you all later.